Hi, my name is Katie Cianci. I'm the host of Courage to Rise show, and we have Anita Nacion-Vita.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, great. I love that. It's so beautiful. So, and you are a spiritual Tai Chi healer, you're
Yes.
a nurse. You're
Mhm.
also a registered nurse and a Tai Chi healer, and so a nurse turned spiritual healer,
Yes.
and here you are offering your beautiful gift of love and light to us. And I'm so grateful to have you on this show. And we get an opportunity to share with the people listening and watching how you were able to kind of transform from a nurse or really shift your life from being a nurse, registered nurse, to where you are now. You're still a registered nurse, but you're helping people. And I wanted to also open it up for you to share a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Kate, for having me. I'm so grateful to be here. And a little bit about me. I have I am born and raised in a family of nurses. I am Filipino American. I'm second generation. And the reason why I'm here in this country is because my mom was a nurse. She was actually 9 months pregnant with me, and I mark now 40 years of their presence here. And, growing up, I always loved like taking care of just being around people. And my mom, she asked me to help and take care of my grandfather. And so watching her take care of him, I was the one out of the five kids who was really willing. So through it all and through my practice, while it may seem that she forced me into the profession, because sometimes it may look like that, I know I chose this work. And the only reason that I'm in transition now is because, there's always like the soft whisper in your heart to do something greater and bigger. And I was just starting to feel super small when I worked in the hospital. So I have 14 years of experience up to date. Adult care, I started in telemetry, moved my way into ICU, and then post recovery. And then around that time in like 2011, or 2013 rather, the system started changing. And if you're familiar and you're working in the hospital, um, it was more high tech and low touch. And what I mean by that is they wanted us to get into computer charting. They wanted us less on the bedside. And I was losing the reason of why I became a nurse. So that's one thing that's super important. Like, really know your why for what you're doing in the profession that you're doing, and it will always bring you back to your center or to the that fulfillment and that joy. And I was losing that, and in a way I was like forcing it to stay in the profession because I worked so hard for my degree and I didn't want to leave. But I was feeling it in my body, and that's what's a telltale sign is I started to get ill. I got sick. I was diagnosed with with IBS, which stands for irritable bowel syndrome, which we all know is like a blanket term for something that's not like they don't give you like a direct reason for why you're having all of these gut issues and problems, when in fact I know it's a lot of emotional stress that I've built up within myself and going against now what I call my spirit's calling, and or going against your heart, or again, always in your head and never dropping down 12 inches to be still and see what unfolds for you. I was always like doing, and in that environment, it's very masculine. Healthcare has been so masculine, and what I find is now that this shift and this whole paradigm shift is happening to soften but still yet be bold and allow feminine energy. And we all hold it. It's not true to one gender. Like, men and women hold both masculine and feminine energy, and now it's just finding that harmony among them so you can fully express who you are and what you're meant to be and do and be fully enjoy in it. So it's been a journey. My personal development started like maybe up to 6 years ago, and I didn't know I was going to do this as a business. And oftentimes it's your calling's like seeking you. It's not like I'm going to go and find a Tai Chi healer. I'm going to learn energetics. what is divine feminine? What is all of this? What does it mean to be an empath and all of that? I think they're all just stepping stones and layers when you're willing to listen. And honestly, your teacher really shows up when you're ready, right? You're, as they say, the student shows up when, pardon me, the teacher shows up when the student is ready. And I finally was like open to it. And in my journey now, oh my gosh, it's just a full awakening. Even when you create a project and you're not necessarily in business, it will always be an extension of you. So while I'm transitioning and serving now a different aspect of myself, I will always be a nurse. I think we get stuck with the titles that we hold and feeling like we're going to lose ourselves in it because we work so hard for all the titles and all this growth and progression that we're in, yet we forget, like, you guys, we're all one. It's just a different evolution of yourself. You're always going to be changing. You're always going to be evolving. And I like to say evolve because that's how we are in flow and in nature, so that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Well, thank you so much for
I
sharing
hope.
that. And, before this, we talked personally, we connected through Instagram.
Yeah.
And as a therapist, I had shared with you how I was going through my own transition in this like deep calling that there's something more, like working one-on-one with a person or working in the hospital and outpatient. And, some of the people that are listening here could probably identify with that, if they're in that type of work where they're working one-on-one with somebody, or they want to take this gift, this what you call like this whisper that's within your heart, and bring it out and make a bigger impact. But they're so stuck in that identity that they created, that they worked so hard for, but then now starting to say, okay, it's time to evolve, and that you don't have to stay in the same job for 30, 40 years and forget what's calling in your heart. It's actually, it could be a stepping stone to that next part of your life, that part of your journey. So how do you know how to tap into that? Because some people are saying, okay, that's great, I'm in my head all the time.
Yeah.
I feel this, but like, how do I connect with this power within, this power in my heart?
Really simple. And I know a lot of you are probably like, I can't do that. It's meditation for me, and honestly, a lot of people. So when you're in meditation, you allow yourself to be still and be quiet. And meditation doesn't mean like sit, and there's so many ways and different types of ways to meditate. But when you set the intention to get to know yourself and listen to that calling in your heart, and what I've taught my clients to do is like really literally take your hands on your heart, close your eyes, and like breathe. Right? Let's all do it together. Take a deep breath.
Let's do it.
Exhale out. And really think, feel in your heart, like it beats without you asking it to. Same with your breath. Like it's a miracle that this body you have that houses all of you, all of your feelings, your emotions, your desires, is all for you, and you've been built with it. And it's just you untapping to that. So what's really helpful, if you've never tried it, is I always tell people, there's so many meditations that are out there that are guided. Start guided. Then when you're gonna feel, you'll know when you're gonna want a practitioner, and they can do it online. You can even attend a class. I hold classes myself now. And even if not that, get into nature. Because look, when you walk outside today, I want you to take like a mindful breath, like what we just did, and look around you. Like really look around, the sun is shining. Maybe you're in a place where it's snowing in this season. Like bask in really the miracles of that, and know that you are also made of that. I may sound and be getting out there and being super meta, but I really want you to see, do you take it for granted, or do you notice this time when you drive to work, to and fro, or when you're having a crazy day, can you drop into gratitude, like deeply, what are you deeply grateful for when you think, your mind's going crazy and you're in a transition, you're feeling a transition in your life to change. I offer you that. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's a great way to start. And to accelerate that, because I know there's a bunch of peak performers here too. I'm speaking to you.
Mm-hmm.
Get around the people, really protect your environment. Get around the people who is already doing what you're seeking. If they meditate, if they do yoga, yoga is also a form of moving meditation. Kate mentioned Tai Chi, the forms, what I teach is also a moving meditation, because from there, you're able to focus and bring into, remove all the chatter that we are inundated with, all the social media, all the ads, all the noise. There's so much that's coming towards us. So now you be the captain of your ship and be able to direct what's coming in for you. You will always have control.
Mm-hmm.
But oftentimes I get that it's difficult and it's hard. But I will say, have grace for yourself if it's your first time, and it takes practice, right? Like working out, any muscle takes to stretch. You got to warm up. It's going to suck and it's going to hurt the first few weeks, especially if you're one of those people like me, you go hard and strong and you want to quit. But I will say you're fully, fully supported. There's a ton of resources. It's on your part to be resourceful.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that you're sharing just practical ways that you can start to step into your heart and actually experience the stillness and the gratitude. I know when we started before we started recording, you asked me, you said, I'd really like to start with gratitude. And so you asked me, what was I grateful for? And it just really sets the tone for the day, to be able to set, or even like in the middle of the day, like we're right now, it's like 1:00, we're in the middle of the day. And like to be able to stop for a moment and say, what am I grateful for? And so how has that transformed your life, your experience, being able to acknowledge what you're grateful for?
My goodness. So many things. If you can get this one practice down, I promise you, your life will change for the better. When I started to do this, so I started to do lists. You guys have heard of lists, like gratitude lists, and then writing. There's so much power with putting your thoughts onto paper, right? Energy like travels. And then, but then it started to feel like, it's just started to be like really habitual for me, where I keep writing the same things over and over. But it's a great start to train your subconscious mind. So start with like 15 every day. So now I'm able to, but what I added was when I put my hand on my heart, because I need like tangible examples to help me embody. And when I like embodying, because then it lands for me and it feels more real than just like doing an exercise, and it's more intentional. So when I do that, you deeply can feel the feelings that evoke for things that you're grateful for.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
and
I
with
love
that,
that.
I
I love
think,
putting it on my heart. Oh,
yeah.
it's just something about, it's like a nurturing yourself,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you're, many of the people listening here are nurturers, or what you call over nurturers. And
Yeah.
so you're nurturing everybody else. And they're like, oh, wait a minute, I get to be nurtured too.
Yes.
So it's just, it's so soothing.
Yes. It is soothing. And I will say, you have to start with you. You must, because how can you wear all the roles and do all the things that you're supposed to do if you are doing it from an empty cup or an empty
Mm-hmm.
well? And I think we've just been conditioned so long to do it that we don't know when to say no, and that it's okay to stop, to pause, the power in the pause, I should say. And it's transformed my life. I think I've been more present, number one. um, I'm less, I worry less about, so let me just say I'm less anxious. I've been diagnosed or with like anxiety. I even know, I'm pretty sure depression too. I'm just not clinically diagnosed. You know, we have to really feel the full range of our emotions. And instead of self-diagnosing ourselves or identifying ourselves with that particular diagnoses, we're able to maneuver through them, because there's times where you will feel in deep depression. There will be times where you are in high anxiety. Um, but the moment you can get in gratitude and get into this practice, no matter how crazy your day can be, you will actually find a moment of calm. You won't be so anxious about the future or even the past, and it actually brings you down to the present moment.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
that's what's real powerful, because to be truthful, that's all we really have. When we talk about time and space, in this moment as I'm talking to you is the only time we have, right? So can you drop into that through your day, no matter how crazy it gets? Just immediately like train yourself to be like, all right, I'm feeling this, but what can I be grateful for? And what do I really know? So even finding discernment between what you know and what you feel are very, very different.
Mm-hmm.
That will bring you back to, like I say, your center, bring you back to you again.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't stay crazy in your thoughts. And so I anchor, and I always use like my hands, like I shared with you guys, like, oh, come back to your heart,
Mm-hmm.
breathe.
Yes, yes. Come back to your heart and feel your breath.
Yes.
Like your breath, because sometimes we breathe from here, right? From our chest, and
Yeah.
we forget that a deeper breath comes from the diaphragm, from the belly.
Yes.
And so it's like, oh, okay, remember to breathe. Like breath is, I believe breath is our life force, and life force. I mean, that's what we do the first when we come out of when we're born. It's breath. We take this breath as a baby, a newborn baby. So how is breath for you? Like you teach this, you teach meditation, you teach people how to breathe. And what have you noticed in the people that you've helped? What have you noticed that has done for them? Like done for, I mean, it's obviously helped you
Mm-hmm.
with your, with anxiety and depression. I've experienced the same. I have anxiety and depression as well. And meditation has really helped me. How has it helped the people you serve?
It helped them to really find calm in
Mm-hmm.
the most stressful situation, because it's free. You can do it anytime, anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And science actually backs up that when you take a mindful breath, it resets your nervous system. So there's a breath sequence um, where you breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 8, pardon me, hold for 7, and exhale for 8.
Mm-hmm.
That will actually reset the forget which part of your brain, but that part of your brain that keeps you getting so anxious and
Mm-hmm.
worrisome.
Mm-hmm. So the
And then the
amygdala.
moment you get into gratitude, it will shift, because now your brain and your body tells you like, okay, now that we're in this calm moment, what do you want to do about it?
Yeah.
And it's a split second, you guys, but you can always practice that. And it may feel, so the first time you try it, especially when you hold your breath, you think that that's counterintuitive, like, well, I need a breath because I need oxygen to circulate. But honestly, what it does is, and for those of you who are healthcare professionals, when you hold your breath, it actually brings down your heart rate. There's this vasovagal thing that happens, and you dilate your vessels, and it will bring in those receptors and activate them to calm you down, which is activating the autonomic nervous system, right?
Wow.
So we forget sometimes, we're professionals, all the professionals out here, you forget the signs and symptoms of what it is, but I understand during the moment you're in the eye of your storm of the anxiety or the depression, you don't know, you're not going to go to the logical part of it in the science. But I want you also to empower you and remind you that you were trained to recognize this in other people, and now to recognize it in yourself. You even have a step up because you practice in healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
So now use those skills to recognize it within you.
Mm-hmm.
But oftentimes we don't take the pause and the time to really get to know ourselves. The more you get to know yourself, you will be surprised by the people around you will accommodate for your newness of you. And you forget, like, the ripple effect of you taking care of yourself will overflow to everybody you meet, to all of your family, to those who you care about. Naturally, you don't even have to tell them to do what you're doing, but you'll notice, this is how you know that it's working, because now they will ask you what you're doing. Hey, you feel more calm when you spoke to that patient. You're usually this and that. What are you doing differently? There's this radiance and this joy about you that will come. Now, it's not overnight. It takes some inner work, and be patient with yourself and practice. Practice, 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 because no matter what program you take, no matter what meditation class you take, the real test is, how are you going to function, and how are you going to apply it, rather, when you're out there in your daily living, in your world.
Mm-hmm. That's so true. Yeah, because you have this, like, everyone has this fight or flight system that kicks, or freeze, fight, flight, or freeze system that kicks in. And and it can be as simple as just daily life, like somebody cutting you off on the freeway, that can get you upset or anxious. But especially if you're in a profession that is high stress, where you're expected to perform at a high level.
Mm-hmm.
And many of the people that are listening here can relate to that. They're high performers and, want to do their best. And so that anxiety kicks in, and then it's like all of a sudden everything shuts off, like shuts down. Your focus, your memory, all of the training that you've gone through. It's like all of a sudden you're like, I don't even remember any of this. And so being able to have that, like, in the moment, be able to just do that breath work, like you just shared with us, and tap into your heart, like that can be instant. And you don't need a pill. You don't need, anything else. Like it's all within you. And
Yes.
so I love that you're teaching this, like you're teaching people natural healing, natural health, which is groundbreaking. I mean, imagine if our healthcare system is set up that way.
I imagine all the time, girl. So I'm so glad you reached out to me.
Yeah, this
Change
is,
it for the better. Yeah.
yeah. So if you have, right now, I'm just thinking of so many nurses that I've worked with,
Mm-hmm.
and also doctors who are like, you know what, I want to do what Anita's doing. Like, I want to take that jump. I want to make a shift or change. And so what advice would you give them, or what worked for you? How did you take that jump, that leap of faith, and go into what your heart was calling you to do?
What's coming to me is the saying that I'm sure you all have heard of, and it's to feel the fear and do it anyway. Feel the fear and do it anyway. And every time you're close, your ego will either tell you to shut it down, and you'll never come back to it again. And the only time it will show up again is when hopefully it's not too late, where you feel sick, you lose your job, something happens, like circumstances shift around for you to finally take notice, because I believe you're receiving messages every day. Are you listening? Are you looking? So the best way to really do it is, I found, was it different for me because I didn't find anyone who was really doing the work that I'm doing now.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I actually got into a whole bunch of business conferences, which is like really odd. But in the personal development work back then, it was all only open to anyone who was practicing businesses. So I would say to find somebody that you like, whether it's like on YouTube, a message, whether it's all through your social media, you find someone who's like, I like the work she's doing. How do I do it? And let me see what she offers, because they all offer something that can be at the level that you're at. So meaning you don't have to get coaching right away. You can get an audiobook. You can, listen to podcasts. You can go to events. If you're more of a person who needs to be live and in person, you can attend something. And it may be like an ad, and be very discerned, like be very mindful of these. I want to say signs, because that's something probably you can relate to, right? Like signs, like you're in your workplace or you're driving, you see a yoga studio and you're like, I feel like I need to start yoga. I feel like, what is this whole Reiki thing about? I met a girl or I met a friend. Notice too in your conversations. And when you get the idea, you light up. And this is what happens. Like, this is how you know you're really in your heart, because you get excited, right? And then if you wait too long and you don't take advantage of it, or say buy the book, go to that program, talk to this person you've been meaning to talk to because you love his or her energy, and you want to learn that and see what they're doing. When that gap, when the gap is too great, then your ego takes over and it tells you don't need that. Who do you think you are? All the doubts and all the negative things that'll talk yourself out of it will happen. So notice the synchronicities, I say, of where it's leading you to, and then take action. Like, do it. I'm going to use Nike slogan, just do it.
Do it. Yeah.
Yeah, because you'll be in your head and you'll talk yourself out of it. And what happens? You stay in where you're going to be, where you'll still be where you're at. And then a year will pass by, things are happening in your life. And then you wonder why you didn't take advantage of something. And it takes a while for that desire to come back again.
Mm-hmm.
So be brave, be courageous. And that's where courage comes from. When you do it anyway, even though you're really scared, even though you don't know the outcome, even though, you planned it and did all the logistics, but still it's like, I don't want to. Oftentimes that's the greatest effort that's going to happen. But once you do it, you'll notice, like, you'll relax a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's almost like this sense of relief. And it's almost like a coming home feeling once you've jumped. I mean, when you're about to jump, it's like, oh, I don't know what, your mind starts thinking, but then once you do it, you're like, oh yes, this is what I've been wanting, or this is what I experienced, when you were in that moment, when that you were feeling like, okay, I know there's something else. And then all of a sudden that quiets down because you've jumped into where you need to be. Is that how it feels? I mean, I'm sure there's some anxiety in the meantime, but at some point you start to feel, yes, this feels right. This feels like home. This feels like where my calling is.
Yes, it does, every time and at every level.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is, like, you're always going to desire growth. So there's tension,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's always going to be that tension. And it's up to you to just make that decision, make that jump. But I want to add something different, where I want you to know that when you actually make that decision, know that it's always for you. Because oftentimes we're like, well, which one's the right or wrong decision? There is no right or wrong, because you will learn from it, right? You get to see the contrast. So contrast creates clarity and conviction. So if you knew you jumped into something and you're like, well, I don't like that. Well, guess what? Now you know you don't like that. So go the opposite direction. But see, look, you can course correct along the way all the time. And I believe that's really what life is about. And it's a practice, but that's how you start. That's how you build your courage. You keep doing the action steps that bring you closer and more forward to the dreams that you desire, or the next thing. It doesn't even have to be so grand. Like, choose one thing. Like, what are you opening up to that has always been a calling for so long, and you're like, you know what, I'm going to do that. And I'm going to be willing, and I'm going to decide, and that's it.
Yeah.
And do it.
Yeah. Take the time for yourself. So One other thing, I want to ask you this question because I think it's really helpful for people. A lot of times we think about what would our past self, what would we tell our past self? So in this sense, I'm going to make a little twist. And so what would your future self, if you could imagine your future self giving you advice now in this moment,
Mhm.
what do you think that might be? What would you imagine your future self advise you?
My future self,
Mhm.
I love you share this because I call it my higher self. There's
Yeah.
always like a higher version of ourselves.
Mhm.
And she would always tell me to believe in myself, know that you're fully supported and that all your needs are met, no matter what you do. You just have to go do it. That is what my future self would tell me every time.
Yeah.
And notice I say that it's every time because that has been my greatest challenge, not believing in me. But
Mhm.
if I didn't believe in me, I wouldn't be able to share. I wouldn't have met beautiful Katie. I wouldn't have been able to share my wisdom and impart knowledge to you all who's looking for something greater and getting to know that it's always inside of you. Outside of circumstances, everything that you're looking and reaching for outside of yourself is always going to be within you, and it's home, right? I love when I put my hands on my heart and it feels like home.
Mhm.
So come home, like the whole premise of my work is coming home to yourself.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. So if people, so you live in here in LA area. I mean, is it Santa Monica or where do you?
No, yes. So I live in LA
Okay.
by LAX airport. I'm in the South Bay area. Yeah, that's where I live.
Okay.
Mhm.
And then where do you have your events? Because I imagine that people who are listening, we're going to have people from LA or even people that may even want to fly out and come to one of your events and experience your healing energy. Where do you typically have them in the area? Do you have something on a regular basis, or is there
So I
something?
have, I'm starting to do something on a regular basis. I'm holding them at a local yoga studio in El Segundo. I'm considering doing one online to just so I can have a greater impact and do something virtual. But I love face to face. I'm all about in person. I think we don't have that enough, and it's something people crave for. Um, and I do like one-on-one work face to face if you are local in LA, and I also do it via like do a virtual conference like this too. Yeah.
Mhm. Okay,
Mhm.
wonderful. Well,
I hold workshops
absolutely
each week.
Facebook or
Yeah.
online. I would love to join your group. And but yes, like in person too. There's just something about touching and like holding hands or just being in that space, which is very powerful.
Mhm.
So they can go to your website. I'm going to include a link to your website here. Do you want to share your Instagram and Facebook? I mean, do you have like an Instagram handle? Did you want to?
I do. I'm super active on Instagram. It's Anita underscore Nacion underscore Vita.com. I'm sure she'll put all the information below the video. And I'm also, my website's just under construction because things have changed. You're probably going to see me like a mindful running coach, but I don't do that right now. I haven't revived it yet. And yes, which is nacionvita.com. And on Facebook, it's also Anita Nacion-Vita on there. Yeah.
Yay. So thank you. Also, you're sharing a very generous gift of your 5-minute meditation.
Ah, yes,
So
I am. Y'all, I created this. It is so good. I'm so glad I found it because I forgot I created this. And I hope it helps you guys when you check it out. I'm really happy with this one because this was the time I created it when I wasn't sure I really wanted to create it, if that makes any sense. Like I was scared. I was like, but no, I know this feels good. I know that someone's going to listen. I know it will help them understand meditation. So yes, thank you for, yes, I'd love to give that to you all. And my recent baby that I'm sharing, which is related to all the events I'm creating, is the RISE movement, which
Mm.
stands for Reclaiming Intuitive Strength and Empowerment. I have one that I've done for nurses, which is Nurses Rise, but now it's transitioning and changing to just Rise, to include everyone who is in a nurturing and serving space. And I teach like ultimate self-care and self-love for you all. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for all the work you're doing. And I'm so happy that you're expanding and you've made this choice to bring your gift to the world and make even a bigger impact. So thank you. What a blessing. And I'm sure we'll be connecting even more and collaborating more because we have a shared vision. So thank you. And everyone enjoy your day and be in gratitude. As Anita shares, just be in gratitude.
Yes, you're most welcome. Thank you for having me, Katie.
Thank you.